Good evening and welcome to Friday night's calendar.
Thanks very much for joining us. These are the headlines tonight.
An inquest opens into the death of a 10-year-old girl who was attacked by an XL bully dog in her North Yorkshire home.
9 years after this happened in Leeds.
It was horrible. We ended up having about 10 feet of sewage water in this property.
In Boxing Day floods.
Lessons in life-saving.
It's still bleeding, there's blood all over. What do you think I should do next?
The South Yorkshire school children learning what to do if the worst were to happen.
Coming up, it's all changed this weekend as we lose the wintry feel and we get back into something much milder, but weather warnings for wind and rain will abound right through the weekend. Details to come.
And Sheffield United's Tyrese Campbell on his family's goal-scoring legacy and following in his late father's footsteps.
Smith, back for Campbell. Can Campbell turn? 1-1.
I know he's up there and I'm hopefully making him proud, so that's all that matters to me.
Hello, first tonight, an inquest has been told that a 10-year-old girl, Savannah Bentham, died from neck injuries after being attacked by an XL bully dog at the family's home near Malton in North Yorkshire.
Well, police have confirmed the animal, which has since been destroyed, had been with the family for 4 years, was neutered and did have a certificate of exemption required under new legislation around the breed.
Our correspondent Greg Easteel was at today's hearing in Northallerton.
It's now exactly 3 weeks since paramedics were scrambled to this static caravan site in the village of East Heslington near Malton to reports of a 10-year-old girl with critical injuries. Behind the steel fences here, emergency crews and a member of the public who came to the family's aid fought to save the youngster, but she died at the scene. Days later, police confirmed she'd been killed by a family pet, an XL bully dog, similar to the breed shown here. Officers say the attack was out of character and that the animal and the girl had a close and loving relationship. Today, an inquest at Northallerton Coroner's Court was opened into the death of Savannah Bentham. In what was a short and solemn hearing, the Assistant Coroner Alison Norton read a brief statement saying that Savannah Bentham had died after being attacked by a dog at her home address. The cause of death identified as a neck injury. She added that Savannah's body had been formally identified 4 days later to police by her grandmother. No family were present for the hearing, which was then adjourned to a later date. They've previously issued a statement saying they simply can't believe they've lost their little girl here, who they loved so much. Greg Easteel, ITV News, North Yorkshire.
Well, next, a West Yorkshire police officer who had sex with a survivor of domestic violence 2 days after taking a witness statement from her has been jailed for 2 years. Former PC Declan Middleton from Keighley continued to send sexual messages to her even when she told him not to contact her. Leeds Crown Court heard that after he was arrested, he was also found to have sent inappropriate messages to 2 other women he met while on duty. He was convicted last month of 2 counts of misconduct in a public office. He's now also been sacked from the force and barred for life from serving as a police officer.
Now, it's 9 years since devastating floods hit hundreds of homes and businesses on Boxing Day in Leeds as the River Aire burst its banks.
Yes, the last thing locals in Kirkstall want is a repeat of what were shocking scenes in 2015, and today marked a major milestone in preventing it happening again.
A £200 million flood protection scheme over 10 years in the making has now been completed. Ben Basin has been finding out more.
Roads turned to rivers, homes and businesses deluged, millions of pounds of damage. 2015 was a Christmas like no other for people in Kirkstall for all the wrong reasons. Hundreds were flooded when the River Aire burst its banks on Boxing Day. Almost a decade on, and it still feels as fresh as ever for those affected.
A big shock, unexpected, which just came without us knowing, and it was horrible, really. We ended up having about 10 feet of sewage water in this property. It's going to stay with me because I have seen it with my own eyes. So every time it rains, there always is, and there's always going to be the fear.
Since then, a huge project to protect the city from future flooding has been underway, one of the biggest schemes of its kind in the UK.
Very solid.
Today came the final piece of that puzzle, with the opening of a new flood storage area near Calverley to be used when the city's hit by extreme rainfall. When these huge floodgates behind me are closed, they will deliberately flood this field next to it. Now this can hold more than 700 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of water which otherwise would be flowing downstream and potentially flooding homes and businesses.
I know it's a devastating impact on people if their home or their business is flooded out. What we're trying to do here is take that worry away from people, and hopefully if we have really heavy rainfall and high river levels in the future, people's homes and businesses will be protected, the river will be kept in its course, and the places like this will be holding the river back and storing that flood water.
But this is just part of a series of new measures now protecting the people of Leeds, including new movable weirs, flood walls and embankments along the course of the river.
This scheme has a significant improvement to their level of flood protection. It is always worth bearing in mind that no scheme can completely remove the risk of flooding, and so it's really important that we are aware of what flood risk there may be in our area, especially approaching winter.
Back in Kirkstall, flooding continues to be a huge worry for people every winter, and new defences can't come soon enough.
Any improvement is better than nothing, and I think it will help. It does give me a peace of mind that there's something which has been done. I think it will help, but how much, that is something to be seen.
We're told this £200 million scheme means Leeds now has a 0.5% chance of flooding in any given year. And those hit so dramatically in 2015 are pinning their hopes on this new protection to stop history repeating itself. Well, one of the businesses that was hit really hard in 2015 was this pub, the Kirkstall Bridge Inn. It's right next to the River Aire, and the beer garden we're standing in right now has actually been underwater on a number of occasions since then. They've even built this big flood wall to protect the pub from the rising water. Let's talk to Chris from the pub. Chris, what kind of impact does this have on the business?
Absolutely massive. As you can imagine, the size of this beer garden generates a huge amount of revenue for the Bridge Inn, particularly on a sunny day. As you can imagine, this is the spot to be in this part of town. But when we have had flooding in before, particularly in the past and 10 years ago, the inside of the pub would have been flooded as well, including the cellar, which completely shuts things down here for us. So yeah, it's a pretty huge impact.
And since 2015, we've had these multi-million pound flood defences that are put in. Tell us, what kind of impact do you think that they're having?
Well, yeah, it took quite a long time to get put in place, but once they have been put in place, we have seen an effect. Certainly after when we had heavier rain again about a year ago, the river did burst its banks once again, but the pub itself was protected by these walls and the floodgates themselves. So whilst the garden did get a little bit flooded, the water went away and we're back up and running a lot faster.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. Well, those flood defences might be tested as soon as this weekend. Storm Bertas are moving in, and we're told that the flooding is possible in the River Aire catchment. So if you live in this area, make sure you keep your eye on the Environment Agency website.
That's Ben Basin there. A cannabis farm in Sheffield with a street value of £170,000 has been raided by police. The plants were seized and destroyed. Officers say that cannabis farms pose a serious fire risk as electricity is often bypassed to try to hide what's going on inside. Meanwhile, they're still working to locate the suspects in connection with the raided property.
Well, staying in Sheffield, 3 distinctive canaries have been stolen from an urban farm in the city. The 3 birds were taken from an aviary at Healy City Farm last Saturday. Staff say the birds were taken while they roosted. The thief also stole money from the charity Wishing Well.
A baby bank in Bradford, which provides items for parents in need, has said that it's seen a 10-fold increase in demand since it opened in 2017. Bradford Baby Bank helps around 50 families a week, but is in desperate need of donations. This week, they've been supported by the TV Dr. Amir Khan, who's backing Lorraine's Big Baby Bank appeal to help provide essentials for families in difficulty this winter.
There's a lot of good that comes out of this place. We have amazing volunteers and we can see the work that we're doing in the community is making a difference. But ultimately, we shouldn't and we don't want to be here. We open our referrals on Monday morning at 9 a.m. and more often than not, we're having to close at around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon because we have so many referrals and we've reached our capacity.
So the families that these donations will help are really vulnerable families who have very, very little. And anyone can find themselves in that position. But these volunteers are packing up these bags, getting these donations out to those vulnerable families. And it's directly to them. And that's the impact that these baby banks have.
Right, well, let's turn to news from the railways now, because today marks a year since a huge project to upgrade some of the routes in our region. A 76-mile stretch of tracks covering Huddersfield, Leeds and York will eventually be fully electrified and the stations refurbished.
It's resulted in hundreds of trains being cancelled, which you'll know about, between Huddersfield and Leeds in the past month. And the next wave of cancellations after Christmas will see huge disruption between Leeds and York.
But TransPennine says the trains will be new, greener and, well, more reliable. Helen Steele reports.
Described in poetry as the most splendid station in England, it's hard to see why right now. But according to TransPennine, this station will be the jewel in Huddersfield's crown once more.
This is the main canopy that we are restoring.
The government says it's digging deep. £70 million is being spent on this Grade 1 listed station.
Well, all this is part of an £11 billion TransPennine upgrade between Manchester and York. Here in Huddersfield, they're doubling the number of tracks up until Ravensthorpe from 2 to 4, as well as remodelling the entire station. All that, of course, will cause some disruption.
29 new trains, electrification and improved signalling are all part of the plans. But with grand plans comes high-level disruption.
So my journey in today from Leeds would have been an hour and a half, but by car, 30 minutes. Will that change?
Absolutely. Journey time will improve across this section. Obviously separating out the slow and the fast trains will allow for quicker timetabling of trains, but also we'll have faster line speeds with those fast lines, anything up to 110 mile an hour.
It's slow progress though. The station and the entire upgrade won't be done until the 2030s. The first phase of diversions between Leeds and Ravensthorpe will be over tomorrow, but there's more to come further down the track. And here in Huddersfield, the station will close entirely for a month next year.
So quite a lot of disruption, but will all this be worth it?
Yes, it's going to be worth it. I think at the moment the North doesn't really have the service that it deserves. I've lived through a route upgrade down south actually, and yes, it's challenging when the journey takes longer than you wanted on that particular day. But when it's gone, my gosh, the difference it makes is phenomenal.
The burning question, will the new trains arrive in the new stations on time?
Your stats show around 38% of trains were on time recently. Will all this change that?
A number of reasons how this will help us. Obviously, we're investing in modern rail infrastructure throughout. Longer term, the digital technology that we're looking to deploy across the rail network, that will hopefully enable some of the signalling type failures we've had today to be less conventional in the future.
Looking to a better future, but this weekend the focus will be on those unplanned winter weather delays. Helen Steele, ITV News in Huddersfield.
And we'll have more on that winter weather in a little bit later of the programme. So still to come before the end of the programme. Smash hit, the rise of paddle and how it could become an Olympic event.
We're built by that famous knight who designed Arthur's Round Table. Circumference.
Why the Great British Panto is bringing more than just festive cheer this Christmas.
And it's been another bitterly cold day, and as temperatures stay very close to zero, well, there's going to be a change on the cards, so things really change as we head into the weekend. We're going to say goodbye to the snow. Something much wetter and much windier is heading our way. More details later.
Well, now, an academy in the Burngreave area of Sheffield is training its 800 pupils how to save lives. It's adding first aid to the standard curriculum of maths and English.
It's the first school to roll out life-saving lessons to all of its students so that they can help people beyond the school gates, as Katie Oscroft reports.
It's still bleeding, there's blood all over. What do you think I should do next?
Learning just that is possibly one of the most important lessons as these sixth formers prepare for their next step. It's a key life skill they can take with them beyond these school gates.
I think I would never want a situation where I have to step in, but I think that with knowledge comes responsibility. So I should, you know, if a situation like this arose, I would have to step in.
I think if more people are educated about this, then we can limit the amount of cases and severity of these situations.
Knowing this now it kind of reassures you that if you see it happen to anyone that you do know, you kind of like you've now got that knowledge of what to do. So it's good, but at the same time it's not that good because I don't want that to happen at all.
Now you have these skills, would you be willing to use them if you saw something?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Because it's important to save lives.
Get that head back, don't forget to tilt that head, that's better.
The charity, which teaches people what to do when someone else needs help, says it's the first time they've been enlisted to coach an entire school.
The skill is also saying and showing them just how easy things can go wrong and how serious the consequences can be. None of us know where we might be when something happens like that. It's far better to be skilled and ready, and in my opinion, being proactive is far better than just waiting and being reactive.
For our staff and for our young people, those routines.
The head teacher here says it's an example other schools should probably follow.
It's really important that they not only learn about the sort of English, maths and science, which is going to help them move on to university or a desirable alternative. This core skill is something that will help them in their world of work.
I can't do it.
Look, it's really straightforward. I believe it's a fundamental life skill that all children and adults should have.
In a short time, these young people will be adults, equipped, it's hope, to pass on their skills of saving lives. Katie Oscroft, ITV News, Sheffield.
Yes, a brilliant skill to learn. Now, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Lucrezia.
Coming up tonight, the latest on the Gatwick Airport security incident. One terminal is evacuated. Thousands of passengers are left stranded. Also, the parents of Harshita Abrella speak to ITV News. Her husband is the prime suspect in her murder. It's as police release fresh CCTV images of the couple together in Corby and appeal for witnesses. And new Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim speaks to the media for the first time, saying he is right for the job. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Thanks, Lucrezia. We'll see you shortly. OK, time now for some sport.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
So, normality returns in the football calendar this weekend after the international break, with Sheffield United looking to maintain their impressive start to the Championship season when they travel to Coventry tomorrow.
Let's hope the weather doesn't get in the way. Well, last time out, the Blades beat cross-city rivals Wednesday in the Big Derby. Now, the hero that day was striker Tyrese Campbell, the son of the former Arsenal striker Kevin Campbell.
Kevin passed away in the summer, aged just 54. And speaking exclusively to our sports reporter Chris Dawkes, Tyrese says he's desperate to do his dad proud.
On his toes, Callum O'Hare. They've won this beautifully! They've won it brilliantly!
As a new signing, there's one surefire way to earn instant love from the Sheffield United fans.
In this eternal Steel City feud, the struggle for power in this city, it's Sheffield United who are the first to make their move.
Tyrese Campbell scoring the winner at the Kop end in the Sheffield derby.
I don't think I've scored a more important goal in my life, and I just felt so happy, you know, that it went in and I got the winner. Obviously, you could tell how much it meant to everyone, and I'm just happy that, you know, we won and we got the bragging rights, really.
Tyrese cost the Blades nothing when he joined from Stoke in the summer. He's already proving a bargain with 3 goals in his last 4 games as the Blades sit second in the Championship table.
Regular football for me at the minute is doing me the world of good, and, you know, each week I'm feeling fitter, stronger, sharper, so hopefully it can continue and the goals can keep going in. From the day I came in, you know, it was made clear that that's where we're aiming, to be at the top of the league, and anything else other than that won't be acceptable, especially for this group of players, how much talent and experience we've got in the group, so everyone is heading towards the same thing, and that's what we want to do.
Goal scoring runs in the family. 32 years before Tyrese's derby winner, this is dad Kevin scoring for Arsenal in almost the same spot. In June, Kevin passed away following a short illness. He was just 54 years old.
It was tough, obviously, and I had to take a couple weeks, even months really, to get my head around it. And it's not even like today, you still think about it all the time, but I know he's up there and I'm hopefully making him proud, so that's all that matters to me. So.
How big an inspiration was he?
Yeah, he was massive, obviously. He was the one who made me want to be a footballer and like my idol from when I was born. It's just strange having him around, but something that we've all adapted to, sort of thing, and just try and turn it into a positive thing and just keep making him proud, and that's all it can be.
Kevin played most of his career at the top level. Now his son is hoping he can fire Sheffield United there by continuing the family tradition of scoring goals. Chris Dorks, ITV News, Sheffield.
Oh, tough year for Tyrese, but clearly from a family of sporting pedigree, isn't it? Well, let's turn to a less mainstream sport, because it's a mix between squash and tennis, and in the last 5 years the number of people playing paddle has boomed. Now, fans of the sport say it can be played by all skill levels and it is easy to learn.
Yeah, I think it's caught on more in Europe than it has here, but it's fastly catching up. It's even being talked about as a possible Olympic sport. Kevin Ashford has been finding out about one of the fastest growing pastimes in this country.
It's played on an area less than half the size of a tennis court, surrounded by walls made of glass or mesh that are part of the game. The sport of paddle has a growing number of fans, like here in Rawdon.
Any age and ability can have a go and see how they get on with it, really. And it's good fun, it's great being in the outdoors as well.
And we've met a lot of really lovely people. All the women that I play with have been lovely. I feel like I've gained about 15 new mothers. They all look after me.
Thanks.
It does make you get out there and do a bit more, doesn't it, really? Especially as you're getting older, a bit more creaky.
The sport's profile is such that there are now events like these attracting players and fans from across the country.
Sideways on, slow, good.
Now, if like me you've never played paddle before, a pretty good person to get some tips from is Britain's #1 paddle player, Amy Gibson.
Try and keep your bat nice and low when you're playing.
Amy's a former tennis pro who 2 years ago made the transition to the paddle tour.
The main thing was learning how to use the glass and all the difficulties with the fence and everything. I think anyone can step on the court and play, even if you've never picked up a racket before and you're able to have a good rally and learn quite quickly. So I think for all different ages it's a great game to get involved in.
Now, paddle has been around about 50 years. It's very big in places like Spain and Italy. In the UK, 5 years ago, around 6,000 players. These days, it's nearer 130,000. This is a Pro-Am tournament where celebrities are paired up with professional paddle players. Among the famous faces here, Olympic champion swimmer Adam Peaty, who admits he was only introduced to paddle earlier this month. Do you think you're going to keep it up?
I think so. I think it's just about getting court time now and routine and whatnot, and I'm always away, so trying to find that, but I'd like to in an ideal world. It's a very fun game. My first game last week when I was just practicing was I was going to be there for 30 minutes an hour, and I was actually there for 2 and a bit hours, so that's how addictive it is.
And with paddle being talked about as a possible new Olympic sport, it's a pastime that seems set to rise in popularity. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Have you had a go?
It's better for your knees, but no, I haven't had a go.
Oh, right, okay. Put it on your list.
Yeah.
Now, finally, it's a great British tradition, and Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without a pantomime.
The heroes, the villains, the costumes, the slapstick performances, calendar? No. It's no wonder so many of us flock to our local theatres to see them. Well, this year, though, those ticket sales are seemingly even more important than ever.
Yeah, after a challenging year for our theatres, many are hoping that they can soon say, it's behind you, because Pantos really could help turn around their fortunes, as Lauren Hall reports.
We'd better get back to the castle. You don't have a castle. Yeah, we're built by that famous knight who designed Arthur's Round Table. Circumference.
It's that time of year again. Oh, yes it is.
Pantomime rehearsals are beginning to get underway, spreading some much-needed festive cheer.
It's been a tough time for our theatres, with many facing funding cuts and the rising cost of living having an impact on ticket sales. That's why this year's Pantos could be more important than ever.
It's something this amateur theatre group is well aware of. They're busy rehearsing Jack and the Beanstalk, which will soon be on at Sheffield City Hall.
Pantomime is absolutely vital to the society. We do a show in May, and then we do a pantomime over the Christmas and New Year period. And it's the pantomime that subsidises the show, because we like to keep our prices very affordable for the people of Sheffield and South Yorkshire.
Many pantos are being performed against a backdrop of funding cuts and rising production costs, leaving around 40% of theatres facing closure or a reduction in their services.
Overall, it is a really challenging picture, and what we know through the COVID pandemic is that people really miss theatre if it isn't available.
Oh yes, I will.
Those behind this production of Robin Hood know how much the theatre is valued by audiences, especially when it comes to pantomimes.
It's a completely British invention. We don't really have it anywhere else in the world, it's ours. And it's the lifeblood of a lot of theatres, especially regional venues.
I think Christmas is a family time, and I think pantomime is the perfect way to get everyone together to enjoy a fantastic show.
It's super fun for all ages, really silly, and the perfect chance to watch something and forget about everything else.
All right, guys, can we do that again from the top?
Our theatres won't forget the challenges they face, but the government says it's committed to supporting them and looking at ways to boost their funding. For now, though, if there's anyone who can bring those in need a financial boost, it's Robin Hood and all our other pantomime favourites. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Oh, they're such good fun, aren't they? And when they chuck out sweets into the audience and everyone's trying to grab it.
Or depending where you're from, spogs or goodies.
Is it spogs?
Depending where you're from.
Oh, not heard of that one before.
Anyway, Aladdin is behind you. In front of us is Tori with the weather.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello, good evening. Well, it's all changed this weekend, going from snow and bitterly cold weather to actually something much milder, but with very strong winds and very heavy rain. Now, the freezing cold weather that's been right across the UK is going to be displaced by much milder air as Storm Bert comes in, but it comes in with a sting. Lots of isobars, very strong winds, gales, all severe gales through the weekend, but the change in temperatures getting up to the mid-teens by Sunday. It's clear and cold out there at the moment, so there will be an early frost through the first half of the night, but then the temperatures slowly lift as the wind turns more southerly by the end of the night, so just above freezing by around sunrise tomorrow. And although we will see this band of rain come in, it will fall as snow at first, so some treacherous conditions, even blizzard conditions first thing if you're caught in that blowing snow, as those winds will be gusting up to gale falls or even severe gale falls. But by the time we get to the afternoon, it'll all have turned to rain. The temperatures vastly different. We're looking at 9 to 11 Celsius through the afternoon. Still plenty of squally bands of rain to come as we head through Saturday night and into Sunday. The wind staying strong throughout this weekend, and weather warnings will be in force right the way into the end of Sunday. So although Sunday itself looks a little bit quieter in terms of the rain, there'll still be some showers, but still mild, very, very windy, and it's only really from Monday onwards that we'll see those winds start to ease off. And in that comes another change of fortunes. Yes, we'll see the winds start to decrease, but it does turn more northerly and it gets cold once again.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Bert's causing a fair bit of trouble, isn't he?
He's been a bit topsy-turvy, isn't he?
I think he is.
And he hasn't even arrived yet, so hang on to your hats. I'm back at 10 to 11 this evening.
That's quite late.
Lucrezia, rather, is next, but have a good weekend.
Good night.